I recently did a series of reviews of different games that were about not being a car mechanic like this necessarily, but more about being a car dealer. And I pointed out at the time that Car Mechanic Simulator 2021 is really the best of the bunch. I didn't actually review it because it's not considered a car dealer game, but in the late game, that's mostly what you do. You get junk old cars, you restore them, maybe hot rod them, and then you resell them for more money, and that becomes your business. And a lot of people felt that this game was going longer than usual without an update, that the developers were trying to milk it with DLCs and so on. And so people started giving it bad reviews after many, many years of giving it good reviews. And still it's considered, overwhelmingly positive on Steam, but notice very positive more recently. And if you read through all those reviews, I won't do it here, you'll find that there is a lot of complaining going on about how long the new version is taking, and I presumed that this was partly what was in the minds of all the people developing the car dealer games, because they made them into car restoration games and car flipping games as much as anything. And they tried to do a lot of the things that Car Mechanic Simulator wasn't doing in terms of, the life simulation aspects and, the business aspects, everything, basically. And so, as great as Car Mechanic Simulator 2021 was, there were a few things which it was a little bit behind on, and so it was being criticized. Let's make a long story short. Now, almost as soon as I had released those videos, they announced, meaning Red Dot Games and Playway are the publisher, they're publisher of countless games, and Red Dot are the developers, and the Red Dot basically only make Car Mechanic Simulator. It's basically a vehicle, no pun intended, for this game series. They finally announced they're going to do 2026, right here. And immediately a whole bunch of people were reviewing the demo and saying it was terrible because it was a demo, basically, and because it didn't have all the features they wanted, even in the full version. Not that anybody has played the full version yet, other than the beta testers. And all kinds of people were saying it's just copy-paste, that it's the same game as 2018 and 2021, and there's nothing new here, and that you shouldn't spend your money. And I played the demo. I went through the summaries of what it entails, meaning the full game, and I found that none of what they were claiming is true. It's actually a very much expanded game. It's not just about adding extra stalls, although they did add one more garage stall here. They've added far more cars, so that now you start the default game with 200 cars. And yeah, they're just countless changes. And it's really striking how similar it is to some of the car dealer games. The feel is especially like Car Service Simulator, so that's a closer match, actually. It's not just the car dealer games, but some of the rival car service games also. Those are, of course, not car dealer games, but garage games that are maybe closer to this, maybe. But they're not, in the early stages of the game, much more than car servicing. In this game, you do all that stuff. You do everything from servicing up through flipping. But all the cars in these screenshots, for example, are not in the older versions of the game, even for DLCs. So it promises to be a very much expanded experience. I've already read that they've made at least 30 significant additions to it in terms of gameplay. Like you have, for example, make sure the cars are gassed up. They had never really simulated gasoline before. You have to watch the time. You can't go to the junkyard, for example, at any time of the day or night, although I suppose in real life, if you pay enough money, you might be able to do that. It's just, they have multiple tracks, whereas previously they would only have one or two, and then the rest had to be obtained through the workshop. There's multiplayer now, which of course people have been asking for years, which means hopefully you can do races together. So it's really extensive, even if people try to claim it's not. It looks like it's going to be a real masterpiece. And everybody's itching who wants it to find out when it's going to be released. And nobody knows. They have announced 2026, but as of this month, it's only May, so that could be any time up through December. And some people are predicting December, actually, which is a little bit depressing. I wish it could come out a lot sooner, because it looks great. I would really like to see it. I'm kind of countering all the bad reviews here, because other people say it's copy-paste. I say there are certain things that are copied over, like this Hemi V8 here. The 426, the classic 426 Hemi, is returning for this version, but I don't see what their point is in claiming that it's just copy-paste and there's nothing new here. This is nothing like the earlier versions of the game, and I would argue that it's the most significant upgrade they've ever done. There's more difference between this and 2021 than there was between 2021 and 2014, which, if I'm not mistaken, was the original. I mean, it's really partly new cars like this one, but you get to drive around like in the old Street Rod games. There are all kinds of branded components that you didn't used to have. I think that's a Firebird, actually. I don't know if they actually have licensed with GM, because they've always had trouble getting GM licenses, but let's say that's a fictionalized Firebird. And yeah, I mean, so much stuff in this that I'd love to try, and unfortunately the demo has very little of this. And this is very realistic too. They didn't used to realistically show wear on the internal components of the engine. They tried, but I would argue that especially in the heads, they didn't do it very well. They just basically made it rusty. And heads have a lot of wear in between rusting out and being brand new. So this is a more realistic portrayal of sludge, plus a little bit of rust and so on. This is more realistic. Yeah. I really am impressed by what I'm seeing here. I really like this, everything about it. They've got trains in it too this time. I'm a rail fan, of course. They haven't got the spacing of the ties correct. That's not really realistic. You don't get to drive or work on any of the trains as far as I know, but it's still cool that that's an element of the game this time around. Car auctions, which of course they already had in the previous two versions, but presumably they've upgraded the auction functionality. And the used parts market's been reworked also. Barn finds, as I understand it, are also expanded. So they have a lot of stuff that has been carried over, but it's all upgraded. But I don't think there's any comparison between this and the old one. This is really something special, I think. And I'm really looking forward to it. So, I'm babbling endlessly here. I should play the demo. And we can see what little there is in the demo. And get a nice sneak peek of what's to come whenever they finally do release it. So, as you can see, there are things that purists might not like about that trailer where they're mixing effects that look like vintage video with effects that look like vintage film and have nothing to do with each other in real life. Reminds you a little bit of AI, but I don't think that's actually AI. I think that's actually CGI. It looks a little bit too good to be AI. Maybe AI assisted. But that's not the main thing. But whatever. So here we have the main menu. And of course, multiplayer and downloadable content and Carspedia are not in the demo. The settings seem to all be functional. And the controls allow you to set key bindings, which a lot of people have said is not true. But you can see here it's part of the new version, which is actually something a lot of people have been requesting for a while. But I mean, for some reason, I think that this is also wrong. I think 2021 also has this. I mean, I haven't fiddled with it very much. One thing it lacks is controller support, from what I can tell. But 2021 has it, so they will probably bring it back. This is only the demo, of course. That video in the background keeps you guessing of whether that's a real garage or whether that's super realistic CGI. I think it's real, actually. Anyway, so you also have settings for your game itself. Here it's the demo, of course, not easy, expert, sandbox, or custom, because all of those will be available in the full version, which is not out yet. But I think I'm going to leave all of these on default because the whole point here is to demonstrate what the demo can do in its basic form. And some of these, I think if you switched them on, you'd break the demo anyway. Because the demo doesn't really give you the capability to do very much other than the bare basics, so that you can get a feel for the game. So they walk you through some of the basic things, as you can see here. I've only done the first mission, which I think is any of those. It's very, very basic. So if we start, it's going to basically direct us step by step through the whole thing. One of the things I've found right away is that the criticisms of the interface, that it's basically clunky and awkward compared to previous versions, is mostly true. I think it would be better if they shifted back to where they were in 2021 in terms of how the controls work. Because the current version is a bit, I don't know, awkward. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just basically walking around is easy enough, provided you're only using the keyboard. There you can see the limits of the demo there. I think these would be also limited in the full version, but you'd have to unlock them. Like these other lots you can go to. These cars look kind of cool, but these are only scenery. They might have included drivable versions of these in the full version, but this is only a piece of scenery. See, I can't actually do anything with it. Can't interact with it. That pickup truck over there that I started at is yours, though. That's your starter truck, because unlike the previous versions, your truck is not just scenery. You actually use your truck, allegedly. I don't know how extensively, but you are allowed your own truck, much like Car Dealer and some of the other similar games out there. As I said, they've borrowed very heavily from the other competitor games. This garage reminds me a lot of the one from Car Service Simulator. The one in Car Service Simulator is a little bit more elaborate, but it remains to be seen whether this one, once it's fully unlocked, will be this limited. Now, you have to manually move these items off of the space you need for your lift, because you manually install your lift in the demo. And presumably in the full version, because unlike in previous versions of Car Mechanic Simulator, your customization of the garage is not solely aesthetic. You do quite a lot to change the layout of the garage and how it functions to your liking. I don't know if these drums are actually used for anything in the full version, whether you can put oil or gas in them, but I'm just moving them to one side. So that's where the lift has to go. So customize the garage by adding the car lift, or lifter, or lift, depending on your dialect. So we'll place that lift in place. Quite different from what's popular in the US because they don't have the hydraulic system in the middle of the floor. But that is common more generally in the world. We put the computer in place by the phone there, which I think makes the most sense. So you have a little miniature office there, or office corner. And so they're basically showing you how to put decorations and tools in the garage. That's the point of this part of the tutorial, of course, because it is a new function that didn't used to exist. So the oil drain, they fiddle around with English so much I'm not even sure if this is the correct term. I always just used one of those jerry cans with the opening on the side to do oil changes back when I did a little bit of work on cars. But this is, I guess, better if you have a garage because you have more capacity. So you have to buy it in any case, which is not the case in the original Car Mechanic Simulator series. Now, I also have to wait for it to be delivered, so we get to test this couch, which serves as our bed. No word on how much you can upgrade your bedroom or your accommodations. This reminds me a lot of Car Dealer Simulator, that you're forced to sleep in your garage. Alright, so it's morning, and let's take a look to see if the drain has been delivered. There's unfortunately not a door there, so we have to use this door. It's the delivery area. This is a lot like Used Cars Simulator, actually. Several games, really. You can only get deliveries in a specific location. So I think putting it here is the best. I think. I can move it out into the work area as needed. You'll see how that works in a bit. It's a bit different from 2021. Doors also open fully. You don't just walk through them like in 2021. So they wanted to demonstrate to you that you actually push the buttons to open them. And I gotta find a phone here to get the first order in. And we have multiple phones, which is handy. So this interface, in my opinion, is a little bit awkward. Not so much the phone interface, but what comes next. Because if I go to the order itself, we'll go and find the customer car here first. My own view is this is a little bit counterintuitive. Of course, it wouldn't be counterintuitive once you've played the game a bit. So use that little checklist there I am still looking for an automated way to drive the car into the garage like in 2021, but I think it might be gone for good. I think they may have gone permanently to this manual way of doing it. My view is that this is not implemented as well as it could be. It is a little bit awkward. They do give you a lot of useful information about all the new features of how you assess a car in Car Mechanic Simulator 2026. For example, how much gas is in the car, or petrol. No word on whether they have diesels, but same idea. And the different kinds of engines that you can put in the car, and the conditions of the different categories of parts, how the engines work, which is not really as different from 2021 as they're making that out to be. I mean, most of this is just making some of the abstraction less abstract, let's put it. So if we look at the different engines you can put in it, that includes the BFM, as you recall, the very high-powered 4-cylinder from previous versions. So it's an example of how you could hot rod this car. But we're not going to do any hot rodding here. We're just going to do an oil change and some basic maintenance. Because early game, that is what Car Mechanic Simulator is about. It is more of a mechanic game in the earlier stages, as opposed to a car flipping game. Now, a lot of the same features like minimum part condition, of course, being a factor in what you're allowed to do as a minimum for the repair. It's only really relevant if you're using used parts, of course, because otherwise, as in this scenario, if you're using new parts, who cares? It's always 100. Now, I find the shopping list here really awkward. See, first of all, it's forcing us to look at all this other stuff, which is mostly familiar from previous versions. Can't finish the order, of course. We have to continue, so we'll go to close there. You drive by hitting the F key. Several other games have the same feature, actually. But significant difference, you drive the car around your garage, which never used to be true. It used to be completely automated, whereas now you drive the cars much more. Now I'm going to see if I can get my controller to work here, just out of curiosity, but I don't think it's going to work out. Keyboard works, as you can see. We'll buzz right along. If you hit the C key, you get this external camera, which is very useful because it's very hard to see in a video game unless you do external view. I prefer internal view, but you can't always do it that way. So if I line it up with the lift here, I think it's lined up. I think I'm pressing my luck if I push it any more. It doesn't actually tell you when you're lined up, you just have to wing it. And so I've got out of the car by hitting F again, and it seems to work. So it's telling me to lift the car. So this isn't too different from the earlier versions of the game. So up it goes. Alright. The weathering of the parts is a lot more realistic in this version. That's for sure. It's not just like rusty or no rust, dirt or no dirt. It's a much more realistic combination of things. Now, when you move the drain, as I was saying earlier, you have to do it manually, which is another change. You have to get it lined up correctly. So we'll line it up. That part is still the same. That rotary menu. click on the suspension to unmount, things like the oil filter. At first I was worried they had omitted that, but they do include that important part of an oil change. It remains as realistic as before. So I'll put the oil drain back. As I said, not how it would have worked in 2021. Go back to the car. You have to lower it to do the rest of the work. They're showing us the rotary menu there, but we need this. And I wasn't pointed directly at the car, which is the reason it didn't work correctly on the first try. Now this is where it gets tricky. I keep struggling to get this shopping list to work correctly. Like, this is very counterintuitive. Hopefully they'll make this work a little bit better in the full version. Because, as I said before, they do plan on waiting a few months before they finish this game. The demo is an open beta as much as it's a demo. So how does this work? Because if I mark these as they're telling me to do, I can't tell if it's automatically going to the shopping list. Where's the shopping list? That's really strange. Okay, so see if this works. Add shopping list, which you can also do with the space bar. Yeah, it's not clear how this works. This could be much better design. I don't like this at all. If I go to the other steps, I don't know if that's really going to teach me anything either about how this works. Shopping list and marking parts. Mark parts and add the parts to the shopping list. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I think it's what I'm doing. Unmark. Okay. Now we'll mark again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How did that work? Okay, now it worked. I mean, I don't know why it didn't work before. Alright, so now we'll start pulling the parts we have to pull. So we have to pull the heat shield here so that we can get at the spark plug wires. We remove the wires, at least temporarily. Remove the spark plug that needs to be removed. They do make a point of telling you the specific part you have to remove if there are multiple copies of it, which is a slight change from 2021. It makes it actually easier. As before, you can tell the hierarchy of what can be removed by the color that it's highlighted in. You have to remove the battery in this particular mission, as it were. And we have to charge it. Different design of charger from the previous versions, but it works the same way. And they give you a countdown there, which is new. Allegedly, you get 4 seconds per minute in the time scale, which is slightly new because previously you didn't really have it, a concept of time at all in Car Mechanic Simulator. And that affects when different businesses you need are open. Different parts shops and junkyards and so on, which I mentioned before. The engine shop and the main shop, weirdly enough, are very similar to each other. The parts in the engine shop are available in the main shop. And the electronics shop from 2021 has been done away with altogether. But supposedly the engine shop tells you more about how to build an engine if you're building one from scratch. Alright, let's see if we can get this to work. Again, this is not easy. should be easy, but it is. It is not, I should say. Okay, so we put this on the list. No? Yeah, I think this needs to be made a little bit more user-friendly. Now it's working. Okay. Luckily, like I said, they have a few months to figure this out. So hopefully it will not end up being another Cities Skylines 2, right? Alright, so those are all on the shopping list. Or on the cart. That's really what we want. They were already on the shopping list. Okay, so we switched to instant delivery to learn how to use that, hitting the Z key. And then we finalize with the F key. Okay, so now, because it's instant delivery, we should be able to go right to that delivery pad. And there it is. Small box with the parts we need. So now, put the car up on the lift again. We should put in the filter, right? The oil filter. Okay, part mount mode. The correct oil filter, and there it is. Okay, nice. We don't want the heat shield yet. We have to put in that plug. We have to go to mount mode again. Okay, manually. It's a little bit annoying. I have to do that manually, but there we go. We put in the coil. Put in the wires, which were not replaced. Put in the battery. Heat shield has to go back on. And is there anything else? Let's see. Oh yeah, they want us to change some of the fluids. So, drain tool. That's the same as in previous versions. Or I should say same as in 2021, because before 2021, fluids were not simulated in nearly as much detail. So, how is this going to be implemented here? Let's see. Okay, refill. Yeah, that makes the most sense to me. This can actually be a little bit hard to see, like where your fluid level is. And brake fluid. Different from 2021. That's realistic or not, depending on how dirty the car is, obviously. So I'll try to pour oil in. This has, of course, never been realistically simulated because in real life you don't fill oil to overflowing, you put in a measured amount because you don't want it to be overfull. But they gloss over that detail in Car Mechanic Simulator. Then I need to put in more washer. In the case of the washer, I won't change it. I'll just put in more washer. Alright. Is there anything else? To the ground, they're telling us. Lower it to the ground. Yeah, but start the car and check if everything works. Yeah, I guess that's what you do. I would use the dipstick first, of course, in real life. Alright, so it starts up, then we leave. Car summary tab. Okay, so car status. And where is it? Why am I not finding it here? How do I finish the job? Let's try that again. Oh, there we go. Car summary tab. Finish order. And that's basically the end of the demo. Of course, you could do a lot more with the demo, but it's limited by the fact it's a demo. Like almost all the features of Car Mechanic Simulator are disabled in the demo, which is understandable. They want you to buy the full version. Problem is, the full version doesn't exist yet. So I am really looking forward to that. It should be a lot of fun. Let's see if we can get into the railway yard. Because you wouldn't want to do this in real life. But I think there's some kind of plot device where you're supposed to be in there for some reason. Let's see if it lets you in. Looks like a maybe? Let's see. Nope. The demo limits your access to the railway yard. You can't go in the railway yard. Okay. Let's see what else is here to explore. This parts shop. There's a question of whether you can visit. My understanding is it does exist as a business in the full version, that you can just go in and buy stuff, but apparently not in the demo. We have our front offices here. These remind me a lot of the offices in Car Dealer Simulator, but they're more limited in scope. So you have your computers out front. This door will not open. The vending machine doesn't work in the demo. I don't know about the full version. This is the path test. Well, several other things like the alignment. It isn't entirely clear if that's also where the dyno is, but possibly. We shall see. This building might be eventually unlocked in the full version, I don't know. But if I try to go in, no luck. And of course your pickup truck is kind of a small pickup truck. Is that a 6-cylinder engine, a V6? Yeah, it's a V6. Yeah, V8 would be kind of stupid in a small truck. Even the V6 is kind of excessive. But let's take another look. Yeah, basically that's the demo. Not a lot more to say. So thanks for watching. I really look forward to the full version. Let's see what it's like when it comes out.